A new UFO sighting took place tonight. This footage was filmed in the USA. Thermal analysis shows what could be a smaller ship flying around, and a much larger mothership behind it. Save and share this video before it's too late.
Oh my god, that is so scary. Also, why do they have to say save and share this video before it's too late? That just creeps me out. Don't say things like that. Like, that and the music, it just makes me think that it's the end of the world. That looked like an alien ship, and the whole lightning and spooky atmosphere is not helping. Oh no, the aliens are coming. We gotta prepare. We need a secret underground bunker. Shut up, don't say that, Chris. I know, but don't scare me.
A 30-second video from Jharkhand is going viral all over the internet. In the video, a strange, eerie-looking human figure can be seen strolling down the road. The video was apparently recorded on the Chhadwa Dam Bridge in the Hazaribagh district by some bikers. Seeing that, some are saying that it is an alien and some are claiming it to be a ghost. After the appearance, there has been a war on the social media sites among the people to determine the exact type of supernatural being that the creature is.
Maybe it's a ghost alien. Maybe it's a ghost and an alien, a ghost alien. Why is it so creepy? Like, it's so lanky and weird. But at the same time, I feel like aliens are more stealthy than that, you know? Like, I feel like it wouldn't just be walking like, oh, da, 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 hey yo, what's up, you know? Like, just for everyone to see. They've been stealthy and hiding themselves for years, potentially, on Earth, so why would they just reveal themselves now? It doesn't really make sense. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe he's just not a good alien. Maybe that's what it is. But it's really creepy. Like, legs were so skinny. Like, that did not look like a human. That looked like a creature of some sort. Ugh. Also, alien, if you're watching this video, just kidding, you're beautiful, love you.
I got it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
What the hell?
That strange light in the sky is one of 1,100 UFO sightings in Canada last year. According to the annual survey released by Ufology Research of Manitoba, there are at least 3 such sightings in the country every day.
UFO reports are still a thing. People are reporting them in greater and greater numbers every year.
I'm never going to BC. It's beautiful there, and I was like, I want to go this summer. Yeah, 3 sightings of UFOs per day? Yeah, that's where they're hiding. They're hiding in the wilderness there. Them and the Bigfoot, they're just hiding there together. Or maybe that was Bigfoot roaming through the forest shining his flashlight. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it's not even an alien after all. Maybe it's Bigfoot. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Lindsay Ivan, and today we are looking at the top 10 real alien encounters caught on camera, and it's pretty spooky so far. And if you guys believe in aliens, then make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Also, comment something down below, because I like to read your comments. With that being said, let's dive on into the video.
Just about 4:45, and take a look at this viral video from La Junta in southeastern Colorado. All right, Vivian Gomez wrote on Facebook that her security camera captured this on Sunday morning. There are people on Facebook who say it looks like Dobby from Harry Potter, or a ghost or an alien, or a kid in flip-flops and underwear.
Maybe that. Maybe it's a kid in flip-flops and underwear, like na 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 na. I can't see an alien doing the chicken dance. It has to be a kid. Come on. But also, it does look like Dobby. It's not Dobby. Dobby. I feel like she said it weird. Anyways, it does look like Dobby from Harry Potter. That is a house elf for sure, okay? He was like, Harry Potter must not come to Hogwarts. Bad Dobby, bad Dobby. And then that was him leaving after the cake got. If you know Harry Potter, then you know. What the hell is that? Ew. Oh, I literally got the shills. I literally got the chills watching that. Like, this alien was trying to be stealthy and hide behind some tombstones, but it wasn't working. Look at its head. That is massive. That's a massive alien head. That is terrifying. That's like the creature from Predator. I'm sorry. I don't like that thing at all. That cemetery needs to be burned down. No, just no.
Why does it look look like that? I don't get it. I mean, why does it look like that? I mean, it doesn't look like a plane, it looks like a saucer. I just don't get it. Can someone help me figure this one out? I mean, if you think that looks like a plane, I just don't get it. I'm looking at it carefully, and of course, you know, I'm driving in the middle of traffic. I'm trying to get as close as I can to it, and I just cannot figure out what the hell I'm looking at.
That is for sure UFO. Like, that literally looks like a spacecraft. Either that, or it's Ron and Harry going to Hogwarts in their flying car. That's also what it looks like. Man, we got the freaking house elf, and now we got, like, this is just confirmation that Hogwarts is real. Hogwarts is real, man. Yo, wizard Harry. Yo, wizard Lindsay. I wish I was. Cadabra. Lindsay Porter. Oh my. That is an alien. That's an alien. Either that or someone is really good at special effects and has a really expensive alien costume. Because it doesn't really make sense to me. Wouldn't an alien like be like, oh snap, there's a human, or something, and make them forget? You know, like the Men in Black, how they have the little flashy light. I feel like an alien just like points at you and then you forget that you saw an alien. Wouldn't you think, like, this is just too casual, him just, oh hey, what's up? Yeah, you can videotape me. Make sure you get this angle. Yeah, I'll just do my slow model walk. You know, like, it doesn't make sense to me. Also, this alien looks like the one from Scooby-Doo. It's with the green humanoid head. That's it's Scooby-Doo. Anyway.
Check out this video from one of our viewers, Mash Hatai. He said he woke up at about 2:30 this morning, get a drink of water, and this is what he saw in the sky. Certainly caught his eye. He took the video from Kaka'ako and thinks the lights were over Central or West Oahu, hard to tell from his vantage point. As you can see, the two bright lights, and then slowly a third light appears. Hatai believes he saw about 8 to 10 of the lights total.
What the hell? Guys, aliens might be real, and it's scary to say that out loud. How else do you explain this? Like, also let me know in the comments below if you've ever had a creepy alien encounter, because now I want to know. Let me know in the comments below.
Something is in the sky. What is that?
This video was taken by Misitina Sape at 8:26 Tuesday night near Haleakala Avenue in Nanakuli. Not long after, a woman named Mariah spotted the same thing passing over Princess Kahanu Estates.
I don't know what it looked like. And then I was like, oh, started calling my husband then because it was all in the garage. I was like, hey, look up there. See what I see. They all said, yeah.
The 38-year-old says she's never really been a believer in UFOs, but the bright blue object had them so intrigued, they jumped in the car and started following it.
I don't know what it was. This one was going so fast.
The journey ended less than 3 miles from where it began, on Farrington Highway in front of the Board of Water Supply building, after the object appeared to drop into the ocean.
Oh my god, do the aliens live in the ocean? Like, was it just returning home? Maybe that's why we haven't found them, because they store their spacecraft underwater in the depths in Mariana's Trench. Love that band. But like, in the depths down there, that's where the aliens are hiding, where we can't go. Wow. Maybe that's where they are. Also, they are brave for following this. They're like, yeah, let's just get in the car and follow this potential UFO that could kill us. Yeah, let's just do it. Typical Tuesday.
Now it is darkened outside. Temperatures are sitting at 61 in Buffalo. We have a northerly wind at 7. Good sleeping weather tonight, folks. What was that? Did anybody see that thing go past? Did we just see a shooting star? Good sleeping weather tonight, folks. What was that? Did anybody see that thing?
Nothing impressive compared to the other ones. That was probably just a shooting star. This guy was just trying to hype it up. He's like, how can I make the news more interesting? Whoa, did everyone see that? No, that wasn't a piece of my dandruff flying by the screen. It was actually UFO. So, I'm famous now. I caught it on camera.
The Pentagon has confirmed a strange and unexpected sight captured by Navy personnel off the coast of California. The video shows flying pyramid-shaped objects hovering above the USS Russell and another warship.
It was leaked by filmmaker Jeremy Corbell. He's also shared 3 images from the USS Omaha showing an unknown spherical craft. The
Spherical
Pentagon
craft!
has
Why did he say it
confirmed
like
its
that?
unidentified aerial phenomena task force, what a task force that is examining the footage.
That guy got really into the story. I think he believes in aliens. He's like, spherical crafts, yeah, aliens. That's literally what he sounded like. The Pentagon revealed that like it was a UFO. But UFO is technically unidentified flying object. So it doesn't mean that it's an ET, it just means that they don't know what the hell it was, which makes me feel better. So maybe it's not aliens, maybe it's just like a drone. I don't know. I'm scared.
Navy pilots say they saw something that defies the limits of known aviation technology. My gosh. They've been popping up around our national security facilities and baffling veteran military personnel.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
And civilians, including commercial airline pilots, are also seeing it.
We just had something go right over the top of us.
Here's a rendering of what an American Airlines pilot reported.
I hate to say this looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top.
Okay, that scares me for a number of reasons. Number one, they said that there was a whole bunch of them flying in the sky. Hello? Are aliens trying to invade Earth now? Like, why can't we just live side by side in peace? Like, what happened to we come in peace? Like, come on, be a good alien. Number two, what if it's like another country spy? Like, I read about this. It could be another country spying on us through these craft type things. I don't know, either way it's spooky and I'm scared.
An unidentified aerial phenomena dropped down on the Florida coast. First thing in the morning we drove to the beach to find it. This is what we saw when we got there. We tried to get closer but the officers on the beach saw us. When we got home this man was at our house. For days we have seen suspicious vehicles in front of our place. If anyone knows what we should do, please let us know.
You need to move, that's what you should do. A UFO literally crashed down on the beach by your house. That's time to pack up and leave, okay? And literally they're describing like the Men in Black coming there and like, oh, so you see anything suspicious lately? Any ETs, UFOs? Let me know. That is scary, seriously. Pack up and get the heck out of there. Again, wait, hold up. I think I just put two and two together. I think I just solved this whole alien thing. Again, it crashed down by water. What if this UFO was trying to enter the water? Like I said before, aliens actually live deep down below in the ocean. Again, this kind of proves it. So, just saying. Just saying.
In at number 10. This is probably the earliest reported alien encounter that I've come across on the internet. Back in 1896, a man was traveling to Lodi, California by horse and carriage when all of a sudden his horses got startled by something in the distance. The man said that he can see three strange beings on the side of the road. These odd looking creatures were very skinny and stood at about 7 feet tall. They were all bald except they had a velvet soft material that covered their entire body. They spoke in a strange language and they were holding a weird mineral that emitted a very bright light. The aliens tried to pick up the man, but he was too heavy for them. Eventually they moved away and they began to float above the ground. The man followed them and then he said that they floated into a huge like cigar-shaped spaceship into the air and he never saw them again. Sounds to me like this guy is either seriously sleep deprived or he was definitely smoking something. A terrifying alien abduction breaks onto this list at number 9. Amy Rylance probably had the most terrifying moment of her life when she was apparently abducted by an alien back in October 2001. Her friend Petra woke up one night and saw Amy being carried in a sleeping position out through the window on a beam of light to a huge ship. It sounds to me like Petra probably took too many drugs that night, I don't know.
No, I don't drink, I don't take drugs at all. I'm just a normal person.
Well, there goes my theory. Petra ran to wake up Amy's husband, but by the time they made it back downstairs, Amy was gone. The curtain was ripped and the bushes outside of the window were burnt. They called the police, but they obviously didn't take them seriously because their story sounds absolutely insane. But before you write their story off, listen to this. Amy's husband received a call from a woman who lives 8 hours away. She said that she is with Amy at a hospital who is getting treatment for being dazed and dehydrated.
So I have other marks from the tests that they did on me.
What sort of tests?
Just getting kind of DNA samples, and they didn't do anything bad to me, so it was
wholly a good experience from my point of view.
No one has any logical explanation as to how she traveled such a far distance in such a short time frame. Amy said she remembers laying on a bed with tall figures leaning over her, and then they were taking a bunch of samples. So I don't know what was going on. And now a river abduction comes in at number 8. In 1979, 2 co-workers were fishing off a pier when they heard a strange buzzing sound. When they took a look around, they saw a mysterious flashing blue lights. A UFO started to come down closer to them, and 3 alien-looking creatures dragged them on board of the spacecraft. Inside, the 2 co-workers were heavily examined for about 20 minutes before they were levitated back to the pier. After the incident, they ran to the police station to report what happened to them.
I was hunting a place to run, but it was nowhere to run. There was water in the front, water on the side, but immediately when they got a hold of us, I felt a little sharp something, and they must have gave me a shot to relax me.
Calvin, sorry. We have to stop you for a second because this must have been absolutely terrifying. I mean, you're in a UFO with aliens and what are they doing to you? They're sort of giving you an MRI and examination. That's what you thought was happening.
Of course, no one believed them, and they were just seen as 2 crazy people. And now at number 7, whether you call this one lucky or unlucky, we have the Clayton and Donna Lee abduction. A husband and wife from Texas are claiming that they have been abducted by aliens on multiple occasions, not just one time. They struck multiple times. Donna Lee reported that she was taken while she was pregnant, and she lost her child due to the alien abduction. Maybe they took it? I don't know. Her husband Clayton said that they have been abducted numerous times throughout his life, and he remembers his first abduction happened when he was a little boy at a park. He remembered floating into the sky and seeing stars and then complete darkness before he passed out. He even has a scar on his side and believes that it was caused by aliens who were attempting to take DNA samples from him.
Did you see the aliens?
Yes.
What did they look like?
What I saw on that particular visit, they were tall, slender, blonde, looked human, but not human, not quite human. They didn't really use their voices to talk. For me, about being abducted is they bring me back. I'm here.
Well, maybe they won't someday, Donna. Maybe they'll take you to wherever they live.
They might not, but so far they have. So you can't live in that kind of fear and still have a life.
When was the last time?
Sounds like she enjoys being abducted. I don't know. A scary alien encounter brings us to number 6. Barney and Betty Hill were driving back to their house after they took a vacation in Niagara Falls. While driving, they saw a light in the sky that looked like it was getting closer to them. Eventually, it appeared as a huge shape hovering over their car. Barney got out and used his binoculars to look up above them. He was able to see 11 humanoid figures in shiny black uniforms and capes, and they were all watching them. If that was me, I'd race into my car and drive faster than Van Diesel and get the hell out of there. That's exactly what they tried to do, but they both said that they experienced a strange buzzing sensation, but they were able to make it back home alive. But they weren't untouched. Their clothes have been torn in strange places, and Betty found a strange pink residue on her dress. She also experienced really intense and vivid dreams about the experience, and she even remembers having skin samples taken from her and injections were put into her belly button. Here is an actual audio clip from a hypnosis session that the couple had after their encounter. Listen to this.
Captain, what is he? You're still asleep, but you can see it all clearly. Looks like a big pancake with windows. I gotta get away from me!
Something very traumatic had happened to them.
The Travis Walton abduction story crashes onto this list at number 5. This story is actually really interesting. Let's travel back to November 1975, where 6 forestry workers in Arizona reported seeing their work colleague Travis Walton blasted through the air in a beam of light that came from a UFO. They called the police and reported him as missing, but during the investigation, the police suspected that the workers actually murdered Travis Walton and that they had disposed of the body. But this is where things get pretty interesting. 5 days later, Travis reappeared and he claimed that he was abducted by aliens. He said that he woke up on a table and he was surrounded by small figures in orange gowns. Maybe he woke up in a prison. I don't know. Maybe there is an answer for that. Well, he said that their skin was very smooth, but it was chalky, and their bald heads were too big for their bodies. He managed to escape from the aliens, but he went into a room that had humans in it, but they were dressed in blue uniforms. This makes it seem like more of a prison. Well, they never spoke to him, but they captured him and put a gas mask on him, and he lost consciousness. But he does remember waking up confused on a strange road in Arizona. A strange alien abduction case is at number 4. Hillary Porter is known as the woman who has been abducted by aliens more times than she can count.
And you believe that you may have something inside your right ear.
Yes,
Can you
definitely.
Just explain.
A little bit like a telescope. It's got 3 sections,
Yes.
very, very minute. Then the rest goes down into my flesh, into the ear.
Okay.
And this thing sometimes comes right out to the very edge. It depends what I'm doing. It seems like it.
So you sometimes feel it moving.
Oh, yeah, you got that feel, and it's slightly longer some days and retracts a tiny bit. And then it was like I was just laying down to go to sleep, and like a little voice came from it and said, "Good night."
Okay.
Okay, how creepy would that be? The first encounter that she remembers was when she was like 5 years old and she was playing behind her home. She said that she remembers seeing a reptile-looking alien standing in front of her. It had scaly skin, black holes on the nose, and a little mouth. She said that the creature grabbed her arms and pulled her underneath a disc that was located in the field. They performed a ton of painful tests on her, and then they let her go hours later. She said that she'd been abducted a bunch of times and she actually suffered from migraines and feels really sick. Sometimes she even wakes up with fresh scars or bruises, or there are bloody marks and stains on her clothes or bed sheets. Okay, a bizarre alien abduction takes us to number 3. Back in October 1957, a man named Antonio Boris claimed that he saw a red star in the sky. The light traveled closer to him until Antonio was able to see that it was a frickin' spaceship. It landed on its 3 legs in the nearby field. Antonio tried to escape on his tractor, and he was grabbed by a strange creature with big blue eyes. He claimed that he was taken aboard of the spaceship, where he was covered by a gel-like substance, and that's so that they can crossbreed. Eventually he was taken off to the ship and he landed on Earth 4 hours later. He was taken to a hospital where they found burns on his body and lesions. He also felt nauseous and had extremely severe headaches. The doctor later diagnosed him as suffering from radiation sickness. We have another disturbing alien encounter, and this brings us to number 2. Peter Corey remembers one night back in 1988 as the day that he was abducted by aliens. He was laying in his bed when all of a sudden he felt something grab him by his ankle. He instantly felt pins and needles, and then he couldn't feel his body anymore. He was paralyzed. When he woke up, he saw 3 strange looking creatures around his bed just staring at him. They had gold skin with tiny slits for mouths. They had large black eyes, and he said that they can tell that the aliens communicated telepathically. They inserted a needle into his skull, and then he just blacked out. If you thought that was bad, his second alien encounter was even worse. He said that the female aliens with long white hair appeared over his bed and they tried to mate with him. After the encounter, he saw lots of white hairs on his bed, so he had the DNA analyzed and it was confirmed that this hair was biologically different from human hair. I can't even deal with this story, so let's move on. The abduction of Jesse Long tops this list at number 1. This alien encounter is probably the most popular story out there, so some of you guys might have heard of it. Jesse was just 5 years old when he claimed that he was abducted by aliens for the first time. He said that he was exploring the woods with his brother when all of a sudden they found a round structure in a clearing. A tall, mysterious figure approached the boys and paralyzed them. Jesse said that he remembers being taken to a spacecraft and placed onto a cold table where he felt his legs being poked and prodded by the tall figures. Over the years, Jesse said that he has been abducted many times. He said that he was being constantly experimented on, and they even took sperm samples that they used to crossbreed with a female alien.
Placed on a table, I was presented with a baby, was told, "This is your child."
I I don't know about you guys, but that is probably the most disturbing story I've ever heard of. I'm actually so terrified. I really hope that aliens don't come find me if they're actually out there somewhere.
At number 10, we have Jay Frazina in the Austrian caves. If the show Planet Earth has taught me anything, it's that caves are dark and beautiful ecosystems that are teeming with life. And in this video, there's a shot of some of that life that seems to be something I've never seen before. In this video, Jay Frazina is on a little hiking trip in Austria. She's with a whole group, so it seems like she should be pretty safe. Unless you're the one person on the tour who they forget and then you get stuck in the cave and then you're like on the side of a mountain for the rest of your life getting attacked by bears. That could happen. Well, this mountain tour leads to a cave and then they start to check it out. Caves are really one of the marvels of the world. Just then she's surprised by some sort of creature.
There's someone climbing up the wall. It's an iceman. It's a ghost. Jesus, what is that? Do you see that? Oh my God.
What the hell is that thing? It looks like some sort of lizard man working its way up the wall with ease. It's really far away, so it's super hard to tell what this thing is or how big it is, but it's some sort of beast man living in the cave, climbing up the walls. That's what it looks like. I'm gonna say just let this thing be and don't bother checking it out. At number 9, we have the Riesa Tunnels creature. So during World War II, the Germans wanted to build some sort of tunnels in the Owl Mountains, all the way over in Poland. Why did they want to do this? Well, we have no idea. Hitler was into all sorts of weird stuff. He had troops out there looking for magical artifacts. I guess if he won the war, he wanted to be a part-time warlock. Well, some people not so long ago wanted to go check out these tunnels to see what was going on in them, and they were in for a bit of a shock. This group of dudes was walking through when they saw this. Here's another man just running around in caves, I guess. Is there a whole world of things underneath us that we don't know about? That thing did look kinda like a humanoid. It looks like it was running around on 2 legs, but obviously it was moving very fast because by the time they turned the corner to look at it, it was gone. At number 8, we have Satan's Cave. Well, if you're a kid growing up in Minneapolis, I can imagine you get bored really quick, so finding a cave to walk around in probably sounds better than smoking weed in the park with all your friends and complaining about your mom. Now, this group of kids went into some caves underneath Minneapolis in search of what's called Satan's Cave. They end up walking through what kind of looks like a sewer with a bunch of graffiti on the walls and some strange demonic faces that have been carved all over the place. Now this is super strange, but they want to get to Satan's Cave, so they continue past the demonic Art Deco. Eventually they get to a tunnel that heads straight down so far you can't see the bottom of it. This could be what they were looking for, but naturally they were like, screw this, and decide to turn back and exit the cave. Probably a smart move. At number 7, we have Train Tunnel Surprise. So what's a tunnel and what's a cave? It's kind of like a tomato situation. They're both holes in the ground where everything is dark and spooky. So I'm probably gonna throw a few tunnels on this list, and I don't care what you guys say because who cares? It's a tunnel or a cave, it doesn't matter. Well, a bunch of teens thought it would be a good idea to try and walk through a train tunnel in the middle of the night. These tunnels are right next to Odell Lake in Oregon. And usually there's large transport trains moving through them. Well, guess what happened while they were crossing through? A train showed up. Yeah, who would have thought of that? A train coming along train tracks? Well, these kids had to jump off the tracks and press themselves against the walls while standing in some gross swamp water so the train didn't run them over. Luckily, nobody was hurt. Alright guys, at number 6 we have Lost. Okay, getting lost in a cave is one thing. You could probably last for at least a few days until people found you. But getting lost in a cave underwater while you're free diving, you have minutes before your air runs out. Well, Kodiak Moraski was doing some sport fishing while free diving. He was chasing down a little lobster and then got a little too far into a cave. This got him all turned around and he couldn't find his way out. He started to panic, but luckily he was able to find which way he came in. I guess the scary encounter in this cave was almost drowning to death.
You're fine, just breathe off the rig, Tina.
I can't get some.
Put the regulator in your mouth.
Wow, I don't know what's going on.
At number 5 we have Nick in the Caves. Okay, this one has got a lot going on. This starts with a Russian YouTuber named Nick. He's got a channel where he explores creepy caves and places like that. On one episode, he decides to explore some old Russian caves with some friends. While exploring, he gets into a section that is so tight he has to take his backpack off and leave it behind. And then he gets separated from his friends. He explores a bit without his stuff and then comes to some strange sections. There's a part with a jug, it's set up to catch water, but it's like, who is that for? This is in a cave in the middle of nowhere. Eventually he's freaked out and he heads back the way he came. He gets back to his backpack and he sees that it's been opened and his stuff is scattered everywhere. Who or what did this? While he's collecting his things, you can see a pair of eyes in the reflection of the camera. He doesn't see this until he reviews the footage, but you can see these dark eyes peering at him through the darkness. It's very creepy. My hair is standing up just talking about it. At number 4, we have big ol' spider. Alright, this one is simple. Mikael Krosberg was in a cave in Laos and then he found a giant spider. He said it was as big as a pizza. That's super gross. This thing is so big it looks like it could eat a pug. Honestly, to be number 4 on the list, that's all you need. You don't need to be something supernatural or like some demon from another dimension. It just needs to be a super gross spider because I think they're disgusting and I don't want anything to do with them. That's how you get number 4 on this list. At number 3, we have the Cave of Screaming Terror. Okay, right off the bat, you call a place the Cave of Screaming Terror, and I'm not going to visit. And I don't think anyone in their right mind would think this is a fun place to check out. While you're at it, why don't you go check out the House of the Soul Suckers, or the Forest of Getting Kicked in the Nuts? Well, this one dude went for a swim in the cave because most of the cave is submerged, so if you're gonna go inside, you have to swim. And he doesn't even bring a boat to go in. He's just straight up swimming in it. That's asking for some cave creature to pull you down and rip your insides out. The dude swimming was Donnell Buckley, and while he was going for his nice little float through the cave, he started to hear this. I don't know if that's a bird or whatever that could be, but whatever it is, Donnell didn't want to figure out where it was coming from and he beelined it out of there. Good idea. At number 2, we have MJ in the cave. The ghost of Michael Jackson was attacking people in a cave and it was all caught on camera. Nah, I'm just lying to you guys, because that's fun for me. We're not talking about the famous pop star Michael Jackson. We're talking about the YouTuber Mark Johnson, of course. He was exploring the Cave of the Winds in Colorado when several paranormal encounters happened. First, we have this weird noise that kinda sounds like a ghost farting or dropping a massive turd.
Probably kick on the spirit box here in a minute and that other
Do you think you still have to crap in the afterlife? Do you believe in ghost poops? Please, let us know your thoughts in the comments. It's not long after this that we see another paranormal encounter. An orb! I don't know much about ghosts because I don't spend my time watching ghost hunters. I've got better things to do, like literally anything else. But those orbs are supposed to be ghosts walking around doing like ghost stuff, like slamming doors and watching you sleep. Okay, you guys, we're on to number 1 now. And the number 1 spot on our list goes to an account from a parkouring dog. Oh, he's so cute. You guys have probably seen this dog all over the internet. His name is Tret, he's a pit bull, and he can climb trees and do all sorts of cool stunts. Well, one day his owner was taking this good old boy out for a walk when he came across an old well. A well is basically a cave. It's just like sticking in a different direction. You guys know. Wells are still in the theme of caves, especially if they're old and abandoned. Tret's owner hears something weird coming out of the well, so he decides to take a cool little video, and then we see this happen.
В колодце что-то шипит. Может, ужик.
What the hell is that? It definitely doesn't look like something that should be hanging out in a forest. It looks like something that came out of the gates of hell. But let me know what you guys think of this thing in the comments, and let me know if you thought this one was deserving of the number 1 spot.
Starting us off with number 10 is 17 Hours. This sort of reminds me of the book called Touching the Void, where these 2 guys are climbing this glacier or mountain, and something goes wrong and one of them has to cut the rope and let the other one loose, otherwise they were both gonna die, and the one who gets cut off lands in this crevice and actually survives. Either way, this one was shared by Reddit user Beach Null, whose grandpa had just gotten back from World War II and decided exploring was his new hobby. Him and his friends went into Mammoth Cave despite it being on privately owned property. Laws were a lot more lax back then, clearly. Either way, while in there with their flashlights, they had a group of people somewhere else in the cave because of all the echoing. They quickly cut the lights since the sounds didn't seem very friendly, and they waited. His grandpa and friends went deeper into the cave to lose them, and imagine this level of darkness where you can't even see your own hand in front of you. It's like a black hole with just no light coming in. They then spent 17 hours in there hiding, and the only thing getting them through it was one of their friends saying, "We didn't survive that to die in here," obviously referring to the war. And no, you didn't, my friend, so you're gonna survive that. Coming in at number 9 is a secret society. This one's from Reddit user Ludovico Specs and was about the basement that was under his college language lab. Turns out the place was turned into some sort of secret society in the 1800s, and the whole building used to belong to them at one point. It had hospital lights all over it, which were always just very creepy. There's an inch of water on the floor too, but the weirdest part was the main room. It had vaulted ceilings supported by pillars that had stone skulls mounted on top of them. On top of the skulls were metal spikes, which is just sus as well. Why would the secret society need just skulls on poles? It's weird. The front room also had this also the backstage area that had a chair with a bunch of questions written on it, like were they a secret society or a cult? Now the user thought his discovery was pretty cool, so he came back the next night with some of his friends to show them. The night after that, he tried coming back again, but it had been mysteriously padlocked. No one wanted him snooping, evidently. At number 8 we have the closet. This one would have sent me running for the hills and was shared by You See The Thing Is on Reddit. The police had confiscated this house from a biker gang a few years back, and it had sat empty ever since. So the user, who works at an insurance company, had to go to the house and assess its damage. We already know insurance people always screw you over, so okay. Now while in there, he described the house as pretty normal, you know, white walls, red plywood flooring, the door locks weren't rusted yet, so it was all pretty good, pretty normal. But then they opened the linen closet to see deep scratch marks all over the inside and dents like someone was trying to escape from inside of there. The worst part was that right on the back wall was this red spatter that had been painted over but was still very visible. The user's thoughts went to the person finally escaping to then somehow getting which is beyond screwed up, but I mean the scratch marks, the dents, like it makes sense. Filling at number 7 slot is Choo Choo. Now this one was shared by Reddit user Hi Dingy Doo, who shared that he used to walk along this old abandoned railroad line just to observe some wildlife, which sounds really peaceful actually, and I'm sure it was until this encounter. Over the years, the metal tracks rusted and were taken out, and all the equipment was also taken away. The whole thing became overgrown with shrubs and weeds, and so to an outside perspective, you never really would have been able to tell it had been a train track ever. Either way, one night the user went walking there with a friend, and out of nowhere they hear a voice saying choo choo. They turned around to see this old smiling man crouched in the bushes just staring at them from the dark shadows, like, who the hell are you, bro? Like, I'm just trying to vibe and observe some wildlife, like, who the frick are you? Oh hell no! I would have literally just kicked the old man. I'm really not as violent as you guys think I am, but like, I will kick people if I have to. I'm not even worried about it. Now at number 6 are the cats. This one makes my blood boil and was shared by Redditor Jetstream Wolf 12. They shared that there's this one hotel in their hometown that's super run down and that everyone just kind of breaks into fun. So they and 2 friends decided to crawl into the basement from a side entrance. Initially all they saw was graffiti, but as they went upstairs they saw blood stains all over the floor. Was someone murdered there? Find out in a second. Now they see a bunch of dead cats that have been dragged around this room and come to the realization it's their blood. That was all they had to see before running the frick out of there, like no 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 no. That would have been me before some serial killer in the back just like hits me like she was annoying. Coming in at number 5 is the ice plant. This one was shared by Redditor Digital is 303, who was very into urban exploration as a teenager. See, I was more into Gossip Girl and reading than I was exploring abandoned buildings, but to each their own. I never judge. Outwardly. Now either way, there was this old ice plant near the user's house that had burned down 35 to 30 years beforehand, which is very ironic. You're an ice plant and you burned it down. Bit of shocking behavior. Either way, the place was super overgrown, and as the user was exploring the mangled concrete and rebar, everything seemed just normal and old and burned. Disappointed, the user went home, but a few days later they hear that a corpse was pulled out of the plant by the police. The user had literally walked past a dead body and had no idea. Like, dude, open your eyes or your nose. How do you not smell a dead corpse? Apparently they smell like proper shit. Like, was your nose blocked that day, bro? What's going on? At number 4 is the cleanup. Abandoned mental hospitals are one place you will just absolutely never find me. Too much pain and suffering has been endured in these places, especially from the way they used to be treated. So this one comes from Reddit user Slothcopter, who said they explored this abandoned mental hospital that opened up sometime in the 1800s. They opened this freezer inside to find mold all over it and inside of it, and in the past they had used it to put dead bodies in there. So did those bodies body's mold? Did the mold come from something else? I don't know. Now in another hallway they found the word blood written in blood since they had it tested, and the word high written in spray paint, which clearly meant others had explored this place before this person did. Which is not surprising since urban explorers will literally do everything except like meth. Either way, the person decided to visit the place again a few days later, and when they did, the blood was mysteriously gone, but the high was still there. So who's coming in and out of this place and leaving messages in blood and then cleaning them up? Filling our number 3 slot is the Sprinter. This one comes from a now deleted Reddit user who went to explore an abandoned school in his town with a few of his friends. It was really hard to get into since the whole thing was boarded up, but they managed to climb up a pipe on the side of the school and get in through a window. They checked out the basement first that had been flooded, so it was very eerie just watching the stairs disappear underwater. They then checked out the gym, and as they were leaving it, they heard single footsteps coming from the other side of the gym door. Now that scared the shit out of them since this person or thing was blocking their roof exit, trajectory. The person sounded like they were just periodically walking around and then stopping, not even properly exploring. There was no light where they were coming from, which spooked the group even more. The group decided to hide out for a bit, and after seeing no one in the hallways, they decided to make a break for the roof exit door. As soon as they did, they heard someone sprinting after them, not even that far behind them. They ran the hell up those stairs and managed to get out without getting caught or killed by whoever was in there. Bro, why were you in there alone, you creep? Now, number 2 is quitting your job. This one was effed and came from Redditor Takausin, who said this happened around 13 years ago. As an electrician, him and his partner were sent out to this restoration project for a house that was built in the early 1900s. And when they got there, they were told some info about the house, like how it had 2 owners since it was built, and how the last one was this old woman who passed away a decade prior, and there was no one left in her family that could take it. So it was auctioned off to this young couple who wanted to modernize the whole place, which is very understandable. So they got to work installing things and had to open the attic hatch to find out it was very cramped as hell up there, and so only the tiniest worker could go up and replace the intake cable. Now the user was the smallest obviously, so he went up there and could smell this old people smell, so he just assumed it was like her death smell, but it kept getting stronger. When he got up there fully, the stench was awful, and when he turned his flashlight on, to the left of him he saw 5 cat carcasses, some partially eaten by insects or whatever eat corpses, and the others were just bones and rotten skin. The dude had just had his lunch break, so he threw up on the spot and actually quit his job after this project was done. That's scarring. And finally, at number 1 is the Asylum. This one actually scared me a bit in my seat, and it's not even like I sit at my desk in a room alone. There's people around me, I was just still scared because I'm small. Shared by Reddit user Daddy's Little Screamer, when she was 16, she and her friend decided to explore the abandoned asylum grounds near her house. Firstly, if I lived in a house near asylum grounds, I would have forced my parents to move. That's not happening from any angle. There was this one tower there that had been locked for what seemed like 5 ever, but that day it wasn't, and at the top of the tower there was a light on, and they both heard a dog barking. Thinking a dog maybe accidentally got itself stuck in the tower, they looked up and were shocked. There was a silhouette in the window for sure, but it was a person's silhouette, not a dog's. The person was the one barking. Without even going into the tower, the girls ran away, and all they heard was this person call out "bye now" in a creepy sing-song voice. At number 8 we have the Jefferson Barracks Badass, and yeah, that really is what people call him. Located in Missouri, the Jefferson Barracks is one of the most haunted military bases in the world, and I'm not even surprised considering how much death has taken place there. I mean, it used to be a military hospital, then it was a graveyard, and it was even a military staging area at one point, so there's a lot going on here. Either way, over the years countless soldiers have been stationed there, and many have left their posts completely because of one specific ghost. The barracks ghost was a guard who was shot in the head during a munitions raid. He's extremely aggressive, like straight up just out to get you, and he actually challenges soldiers to fight him. Despite literally having a bullet in his head, he's out here just ready to square up, and soldiers are terrified of him. And if his presence isn't bad enough, the jail cells there are also haunted by disembodied voices, there's floating apparitions, and shadow people. Freaking great. Do they prepare you for that during training? Like, okay, your real human target is over there, but always watch your back for that freaking ghost who could get you too. Haha. out you go. No. Filling our number 7 slot are the 6 Devils. Having taken place back in 1836, this is actually one of the first ever military ghost encounters ever reported. General Juan Jose Andrade sent a group of troops to burn the soldiers that had died at the Alamo. Hours later, when the men returned, they were pale and shaken up and refused to go near the Alamo ever again. Now they claimed it was guarded by 6 devils and that burning the bodies felt like being in hell itself, which is a pretty bold statement. People who have gone there since have reported seeing boys walking around in period clothing and hearing hooves on the ground when clearly there are no horses around. And not even including the war deaths that took place there have been multiple in the area as well. Other people have claimed seeing a man and young boy jumping off the Alamo mission to their death but then vanishing into thin air. Where did they go? Where did they come from? Cotton Eye Joe. Now at number 6 are the voices. This one's from Reddit user BloodSoup03 who said he was stationed in Iraq back in 2006 and it was his turn for guard duty. He was stationed in a massive compound area called Camp Baharia in an area where Saddam Hussein's sons apparently women. Apparently, it's not confirmed. Now the guard tower he was in was 2 stories high and you had to use this metal spiral staircase to get up there. One night, halfway through his post, him and his friends suddenly heard this loud pair of footsteps sprinting up the stairs. Taken off guard, both of them grabbed their helmets, got their weapons ready, and waited. After a few minutes, he went around the corner to find absolutely no one. Now he made his way downstairs and outside the tower to make sure no one was around, and no one was. There wasn't even any new vehicle outside that could have brought someone, and they didn't understand how they didn't see the person approach or even hear them open the tower door. Just wasn't making sense. Either way, he went back up to his partner who was pale as hell, looking like he'd seen the devil himself. He asked the user what all the commotion was about and where the woman was. The user was like, "What are you talking about? What woman?" His comrade replied saying when he had gone downstairs he had heard a scuffle between the user and a woman and heard a blood-curdling scream for help and then silence. The user went white and was like, "I didn't hear any of that. I didn't even see a woman." So could it have been one of those women that Saddam Hussein's sons? Who knows? Possibly. Coming in at number 5 is Brother Bear. So this story is actually from World War I veteran Will Bird's memoir, Ghosts Have Warm Hands. Now Will's brother was a war veteran as well who had died 2 years before he wrote the book. In this one, Bird said he was napping in a sheltered area when he suddenly woke up and saw the ghost of his brother Steve smiling down at him. He said Steve smiled at him and put his hands over his mouth as Will started screaming out of joy. What a nice story. This one does have a happy ending, don't worry guys. Now he then told Will to get his gear and follow him. 5 minutes later, at a new spot, Will saw the place he was napping beforehand be blown to pieces by enemy fire. So despite being dead, Steve's ghost saved Will's life, and that's a true MVP brother if I ever saw one. Like, hello, Steve, you're doing great, sweetie. At number 4 is Hellman's Observation Point Rock. Locals and soldiers in Afghanistan alike believe the area is cursed and haunted by tragedies of the past. When Russia occupied Afghanistan, Point Rock was the place where Russian soldiers were executed by Afghani Mujahideen. And ever since then, when Marines are posted there, they have reported hearing voices speaking in Russian time and time again, even though there are never any Russians in the area. Lance Corporal said the place sucks and that you could stick a shovel in any part of the area and you'd come up with bones. And it's not just Russian afterlife that the troops are scared of. Guards there have dealt with the voices of people crying, phantom gunfire, lights that appear and disappear with no source, and a little ghost girl that tries to lure troops into an isolated area to help her. And God knows what she does with them after that. I do have a few ideas. They're not nice. Don't follow that girl. Filling our number 3 slot are the Eyes. This one's from Redditor Mace Windex, who was stationed at Fort Carson in 2015 during the Warhorse Strike. He said it was the last day of a 2-week field problem and all the troops were pretty tired, wanting cigarettes or coffee or something, and just ready to get the hell out of there. That night, they arranged a tactical movement to Gate 20 to secure a target. As they went off, the user was at the back of the line to make sure no one got left behind. They were in this valley, and at the bottom of it there was a stream, and as soon as they crossed the stream, this disgusting stench just hit them. And it wasn't a skunk, a lot worse, the user said it could only be associated with the odor of meat gone bad. And it wasn't uncommon to find dead animals in the area, but since they'd been training there for 2 weeks, they would have found whatever it was already, and with the pungency of the smell, they wouldn't have ignored it, and I quote, "It was like some advanced decomposition." I feel like that's something I'd say. Either way, the user went on to say he usually liked being alone on his patrols and had been followed in the past. And when you get that gut feeling you're being watched, you just know. The user decided to look back around them just to make sure, and through his night vision he saw a pair of gleaming eyes in the trees. But as soon as he saw the first pair, he saw another, and it was standing at like 7 feet tall. So what the hell did those eyes even belong to? The user freaked out, but none of the troops had any live ammo, so they couldn't investigate, so they just got the F out of there ASAP Rocky. As would anyone. I would do the same. I wouldn't be there to begin with. That was a rough one. That was a rough one, not gonna lie guys. Now at number 2 is the sailor. This one's from Reddit user Isa, who was a newly reported sailor, and this happened while he was in the engine room of a submarine while on mid-watch. The engine room lower level of the submarine had many narrow passages throughout it, and all of them passed through the center. He came down one of the ladders and saw someone 15 feet in front of him walk and then turn the corner. And he was 100% sure he saw him. I mean, he'd heard his footsteps, he saw the back of his head. It seemed pretty damn real. But there were problems with this sighting. Firstly, the person he saw was wearing utilities, which made no sense since utilities had been phased out of use 3 years prior. Secondly, there was only one other person awake at the time, and he was the one waiting at the top of the ladder for the user. Initially, he didn't want to mention the incident and blamed it on sleep deprivation, but 4 months later he got his closure. The user was out at sea on a different submarine with a fellow sailor who had served on his previous ship as well. The man told the user the story of a sailor who had committed an engine room lower level in his utilities a decade beforehand. Great, don't we just love seeing dead sailors when we're new on the job? We love that. Love it. Great first day at work. And finally, at number 1 is the black smoke. So this story comes from Jerry Aberdeen, who was stationed at an air base in Afghanistan when this event took place. Military personnel were patrolling the area as always, and they all spotted a large group of angry people coming towards the base trying to ambush it. They started climbing the walls of the station, and all hands were called to defend the base. They opened fire and many people were killed, but one man who died let out something. Aberdeen said as soon as the man was shot and fell to the ground, this plume of black smoke started pouring out of him, and troops assumed it was a suicide vest that had malfunctioned. But the smoke wasn't disappearing, it was materializing into human form. The smoke person was now standing in front of these troops, and all of them remembered it having red glowing eyes and a weirdly deformed mouth. It smiled at the troops before turning around to run, but then sort of vanished into thin air after a few steps. The troops were shook, they had no idea what to think, what to feel. Should they be shooting at the smoke? Like it was just too much. It was all too much.
We start off with Richard Snowden. He was kicking around in the 1700s. One night, him and 3 buddies were having a boys' night. The place was a banger. They were having an intense game of cards. The 4 of them were having such a good time that one of them exclaimed, "I hope this night will never end." But just then, there was a knock at the door. It was a companion of one of the men they've been partying with, and he needed his friend's help immediately. There was an emergency. This obviously bummed out everyone else was at the party. They're like, and one of the guys said, "We would keep playing with the devil himself, even if he took your place." The man from the party and his companion left, and then a few moments later, there was another knock at the door. It was a wandering traveler who asked if he could come in. When he saw the men playing cards, he asked if he could join. Everyone was stoked because it means they could start ripping cards again. But this wandering traveler seemed to have just the best luck. Almost supernatural luck, winning hand after hand until he cleaned everyone out. After everyone was broke, the traveler went to leave, and all the men caught a scent of brimstone. Was this just a ringer that came in to play these poor losers, or was something more supernatural afoot? I like the idea that the devil just came in and was like, yeah, I'm just gonna take everyone's money in peace. That's super funny. Number 9, the basement scratching. This one was posted anonymously on Reddit. Ooh. The story starts with a girl who's having a bunch of friends over for a night of drinking, movies, and someone decides to pull out a Ouija board. Hot tip for never encountering demons: don't play with Ouija boards. Huh. They're all having some fun with the board, asking it questions, messing around. Typical Ouija hijinks. Not long after that, everyone goes home. That night, the girl is woken up by scratching coming from her basement. She thinks it's probably mice and she tries to go back to sleep. But then the scratching turns into knocking and then a loud bang. She's startled, jumps out of bed, grabs her phone, runs and locks herself in the bathroom, and she keeps the lights off in the bathroom just in case it's someone breaking in. She doesn't want them to know where she is. But just then, she feels a hand grip down on her shoulder and someone whisper, Hello? She wraps the story up with saying she was up all night with all the lights on in the house, and the next day she moved some of her stuff into her brother's house and never went back. Number 8. The Pale Man. Now we have Alex. Alex says back in 2003 he was working late night at a bar. It was getting close to closing time on a pretty slow night, so everyone had cleared out except for one guy. He didn't recognize him, but the guy did seem pretty drunk. When he told the guy that they were closing soon, he asked him if he would walk him to the bus stop just outside of the bar. He was worried about getting mugged. Alex was feeling nice that day, so he was like, yeah, no problem. He helped the man out of the bar, and just before they got to the stop, the man grabbed him by the arm. His hand was so cold it felt like it was burning his skin, and then the barfly turned to him and his eyes were pitch black. Alex was so stunned he couldn't move. Then the man said, Maryland is rotting. He pushed the man down, ran back into the bar, and Marilyn was the name of his wife who had recently passed away. Ooh. Number 7. The Forest. Sometimes when you're a kid, your parents tell you not to do something, and sometimes you're like, I'm gonna do it anyways. Well, sometimes you should listen. This encounter comes from Charlie when he was 13. He went up to the cabin with his father. It was just gonna be a weekend next to lake having fun with your old pa. But his dad had one rule about going out at night. Don't venture into the forest. So what did our young friend do right after his dad fell asleep? Well, he went to go check out the forest. He says at first it was actually quite beautiful. The moon was big and lighting up all the trees. Then he heard a noise, not an animal, but a laugh. He looked deep into the forest and saw a tall, slim figure, not like an animal at all, but like a stretched out, lanky man and rigid. He couldn't make out anything on its face except for a grin that shined in the moonlight. Then it reached out its hand and motioned to him with his finger to come over. He obviously ran the hell out of there. He said he never told his dad because he didn't want to get in trouble, but he never forgot what he saw. Number 6. Witches. Sometimes you start doing something because it's trendy, and then you get halfway up a climbing wall and you realize you're afraid of heights. Well, Danielle got too deep into something in a similar way. She read a book on witches and thought it'd be fun to join her local coven. I think we should start with knitting. Maybe knitting before witchcraft. Anyways, she got with them, and after a few months she got invited to her first seance. So she went, and it was in a creepy basement, as it should be, and when she got there, there was someone who was tied down and sleeping. She didn't recognize the girl, but she followed along with the ritual because peer pressure is very strong, guys. The chanting and the ceremony got more and more intense, and then everything stopped. They untied the girl and then sat in a circle around her. The girl who was previously tied up sat up, looked at Danielle, and then spit what looked like blood all in her face. This was enough to push her over the edge, so she ran out of the basement and never went back to the coven. She said sometimes she had vicious nightmares that she was giving birth to a baby that had claws, fangs, and rotting skin. Super gross. Number 5. Sleep paralysis. You can thank YouTube for this story from a guy who said he would get sleep paralysis and often see a reoccurring creature. He said it had a human-like body but skin that looked hard and sharp. It had no teeth and very little hair, with long nails that looked like they haven't been washed in months, and instead of eyes, just dark pits. Now, it's not uncommon for people to hallucinate during sleep paralysis, but he said this creature would tell him things. Horrible things that hadn't happened yet, but were going to happen eventually. And then eventually, they did start happening. Now he can't sleep without the aid of sleeping pills. This is terrifying. 4. The new house. You move into a new home and you get inspected and they say everything's good, but little did you know there's a demon in the house. This happened to JD when him and his family moved into a new home, and then weird things started happening. Stuff would go missing, things would move at night, sometimes he would hear laughing. It was just unsettling. It was unsettling but not terrible, until one night he was woken up by his bedroom door slamming shut. He sat at the edge of his bed and he saw it. It looked like a decrepit old woman with flesh falling off her bones and pointed teeth. This thing let out a scream so loud he closed his eyes in fright, but when he opened his eyes, the thing was gone. They moved out of the house not long after that. Number 3, the graveyard. I got another hot tip for you guys. Don't go to graveyards at night. nothing good has ever happened in a graveyard at night. But Monica was grieving her recently dead mother and couldn't sleep, so she thought taking a drive down to the burial site might put her at ease. When she got there, it seemed like no one was there. She walked up to her mom's spot and she stood there reminiscing for a moment. Then she saw a man in a dark coat walking towards her about 50 feet away. She was scared, so she started to rush back to her car. For a moment, she looked back and caught a glimpse of the man's eyes. They were glowing yellow. She started sprinting to her car. She got in and sped off. Once she was far enough away, she pulled over to gather herself. Then she felt it. It felt like something dark was close. She looked in the rearview mirror and saw the glowing eyes from inside the car. She then looked back and there was nothing. She then sped off again until she got home. Then, when she got to her apartment, there was a note right on her door. The note was unmarked, but it read, "See you soon." That is terrifying. Number 2, little brother. Blake wrote this one out on 4chan. He said that when he was a kid, he would often hear footsteps at night, but he was so young that he didn't know that this was unusual. One night, the footsteps were so loud that they woke him up. He was curious, so he went to go inspect them. He followed the noise until he came across a boy sitting with his back to him crying. He asked if the boy was okay, and then the boy turned to look at him and he had no face. He was terrified and ran into his parents' room screaming. Nothing like this ever happened again, but he never forgot that night. Number 1, Home Alone. As I stated before, don't mess around with Ouija boards. This was submitted by Rebecca on Reddit. She said one night she was home alone bored, so she started playing around with a Ouija board her brother had got her. While using the board, she asked if anyone was there. It slid to yes. It was spooky, but she also found it kind of exciting. She asked for the name and she got a series of symbols that didn't make sense. She then asked if they were nice and it slid to no. This time she was freaked out, so she took her hands off the board and then the toggle started moving on its own to spell out "Let's play" and then flew off the board. Then banging on the windows and all around the house started. The lights started flickering on and off, and she said she felt like she was choking on something. She ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and then spit black sludge into the sink. Terrified, she looked up into the mirror and didn't see her face, but what she describes as the devil's grin. After this, she fainted. Rebecca said her family found her on the bathroom floor. She later went for psychiatric treatment, but all tests came back to say that she had no mental disorders. So who knows what really happened.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have The Illusionist. This is said to be a true story from Juarez in Mexico of when the devil appeared to a man there. It happened in 1942 and was later told by his son before spreading around the world. On a summer's day, the man went down to see the circus in town with his father and his brother. The shows weren't very interesting that year, but they met 2 girls and went off to hear some live music. Suddenly, they were stopped by a short man in a dinner jacket. He claimed that he was the greatest illusionist in the world, but that the circus turned him down because his act was so terrifying. The owner had accused him of being the devil. This got the man and his brother's attention. The stranger said they could see the amazing trick at his home. They followed the stranger back and sat on a sofa in his trailer. The stranger extended his arm and began running his left hand over his gloved right hand, all while chanting a strange tongue. He asked if they were ready. They said yes. He pulled off the glove and everyone screamed. To their horror, the hand was now a skeleton hand, still wiggling its fingers. The man's brother got up to take a closer look. The stranger grabbed the top of his head with his bony hand and said he was now really going to show them something. At this point, they all ran and screamed. The man stopped and looked back. The stranger was standing on top of the steps and laughing at them. On the ground was a wooden plank with long nails pointing up. The stranger jumped off the step and landed right onto a nail. Blood poured out of his boot, but he continued to laugh. The man just stared at him, transfixed, until his brother grabbed him and they both ran away. They knew it was the devil, they felt it was the devil, and they say it was a day they can never forget. Next up at number 9 now, we have Robert Johnson. He's one of the most legendary blues musicians of all time, whose music went on to influence other musicians for generations. Aside from his music, folks may tell you another story about Robert Johnson, that he met the devil. They say that one day Robert was walking down the highway on a cool October night when he came to a crossroads. A tall man was sitting there on a log by the side of the road. He said that he knew Robert and asked him if he wanted to play the guitar like nobody had ever played it before, to be the king of the Delta blues. He said yes, he wanted that. The devil warned him though that although his music will enchant the crowds, his soul will now belong to him. This is not just any crossroads, the devil said. I put this X here for a reason, and I've been waiting on you. Then the devil possessed him. Robert's eyes rolled upwards in their sockets. The moon pierced his eyes. Then he looked at the man straight in the eyes and said, "Step back, devil man. I'm going to Rosedale. I am the blues." Now, whether or not you believe that story, Robert Johnson was an incredible blues musician. I was actually listening to him as I wrote this script, and he also died under mysterious circumstances involving some sort of poison when he was 27 years old, which historians are still trying to fully understand. Moving on to number 8 now, we have St. Dunstan. He was a 10th century hermit who lived in Glastonbury in England. One day a mysterious stranger approached him and asked that St. Dunstan use his skill in smithing to make a chalice for him, a sort of holy cup if you like. Dunstan agreed and set to work. As he worked away though, he saw the stranger change form from man to woman, from woman into a child, flowing from one to the next. Dunstan realized that this was the devil, but he tried to act as if he hadn't noticed. Then, when the chance presented itself, he grabbed a pair of red hot tongs from the fire and pierced them into the stranger's nostrils, causing the devil to cry out in pain and flee. A while later, the devil returned, this time as a vagrant street performer playing the harp. Dunstan grabbed him by the leg this time and began shooing him. Then he nailed a horseshoe to his cloven foot. The devil screamed in agony and agreed to be released on the condition that he never approach a house with a horseshoe hanging over the doorway ever again. This gave birth to the legend that horseshoes are lucky and even keep the devil at bay. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the devil's violinist. That's the name given to Niccolo Paganini. Some even say he was the greatest violin player who ever lived. He was a child prodigy in Genoa, Italy, who struggled to find a teacher that he couldn't surpass immediately. By the age of 15, he was touring solo. Within a year, he had a breakdown and succumbed to alcoholism. He didn't reappear in the public eye until the age of 22, but this time, he was somehow better than ever. They say he was able to play 3 octaves across 4 strings and a handspan. Now, you don't actually have to know what that means, but it's thought to be nearly impossible, even by today's standards. He was a striking sight in his performances. Very tall and very thin, with hollow cheeks, very long fingers, pale skin, and flaming eyes with thin lips that held a sardonic smile. To top it all off, he wore all black for his performances. Soon, rumours began to circulate that his violin was the devil's instrument, that Paganini had actually made a deal with the devil. Some say they saw the devil help Paganini play. Others say that they once saw lightning bolts hit the end of his bow during a performance. When he died, he turned down his last rites from a priest. The official account is that he did this because he thought he wasn't going to die, but others say it was because he feared the blessing of a priest. Coming in at number 6 now, we have The Richest. This is the story of Jonathan Moulton. He was an American general who helped the US win the Revolutionary War. He's also known for trying to trick the devil, apparently. Despite being very rich, Moulton wanted more. One night, sitting in front of his fireplace, Moulton said out loud that he'd sell his own soul to the devil to be the richest man in the province. Not want to miss out on the offer of a soul, the devil appeared right there and said that he would make the deal and fill Moulton's boots with gold coins every single month. For a while, Moulton enjoyed finding the gold in his boots every month, but soon he wanted more, and he hatched a cunning plan. He cut the bottom of his boots off and put them on top of the chimney. The devil filled up the boots, but eventually noticed the shoes never filled. The coins were just tumbling down the chimney where Moulton was practically swimming in them. As revenge, the devil took back all the gold he'd ever given Moulton. He burned down the house and kept his soul in hell for eternity. Legend says that years after his death, Moulton's grave was opened, and instead of a skeleton, they found a coffin filled with gold. Next up at number 5 now, we have Saint Pio. We talked about Saint Duncan earlier, but he wasn't the only saint on this list who claims to have had a run-in with a devil. Pio was also known for his frequent and often violent battles with the devil. On one occasion, a local friar found him lying bloodied and bruised in his room. When Pio came around, he said that he had been attacked by either Satan or one of his demons, which had left him with 3 broken ribs. On one night in 1906, Pio heard footsteps coming from the next room, which he thought was his friend, Friar Anastasio. He went to the window and tried to call out to invite him in for a chat. He found that his voice had gone though, out of nowhere. He just couldn't speak. Then he noticed a large black hound sitting menacingly on a nearby window ledge. In his account of what happened next, Pio said, "I saw the big dog enter through the window and there was smoke coming from its mouth. I fell on the bed and I heard a voice from the dog that said, 'Him it is him.' While I was still on the bed, the animal jumped up to the ledge of the window, then to the roof and disappeared." His colleagues believed that the devil was targeting him because of all the exorcisms that Pio had performed over the years. They said that on many occasions, before leaving the body of a possessed man, they would actually hear the devil shout, "Padre Pio, you give us more trouble than Saint Michael. Do not steal the bodies from us and we will not bother you." Next up at number 4 now, we have Johann Georg Faust. A 1507 book titled Historia and Tale of Dr. Johannes Faustus tells the story of Johannes Faustus, who allegedly met the devil. According to the book, he was a German scholar who, quote, "loved what ought not to be loved." It says that he craved nothing more than forbidden knowledge. One day, Johannes traveled to a crossroads in a forest and summoned the devil. He stood inside a protective circle and performed an ancient and unholy ritual. Soon, lightning came crashing down and the entire forest was destroyed. Demons emerged in 3 forms. First, a dragon, then as a man made of fire, and then as an old monk. After hours of conversation, Faust agreed to trade his soul so that his every question would be answered for 24 years. He told himself that things would be fine because, in his words, the devil might not be so black as they used to paint him, nor hell so hot as the people say. Well, the story ends by saying that he was wrong and people were right. It claims that when Johannes died, his soul went straight to hell, where he spent an eternity of torture, wishing for death, but finding that even death had forsaken him. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the Signed Pact. Father Urbain Grandier was a French Catholic priest who, in 1632, was accused by a local group of nuns that he had bewitched them and sent demons to commit evil and impudent acts with them. Investigations into Urbain reached a new level with the discovery of what people claimed was a physical contract written on paper between Urbain and the devil. The contract was said to be even signed by Urbain, the devil, and a number of different demons. It read, "We, the influential Lucifer, the young Satan, Beelzebub, Leviathan, Elimi, and Astaroth, together with the others, have today accepted the covenant pact of Urbain Grandier, who is ours. And him do we promise the love of women, the flower of virgins, the respect of monarchs, honors, lusts, and powers." That's where it ended. Well, whatever you guys think about all of that, the local court found him guilty and sent him to burn at the stake. Moving on now to number 2, we have Saint Gemma Galgan. In her diaries, she wrote that she believed the devil himself was waging a personal war against her. In one famous passage, she wrote, "The demon came before me as a giant of great height and kept saying to me, 'For thee there is no more hope of salvation. Thou art in my hands.' I replied that God is merciful and therefore I fear nothing. Then, giving me a hard blow on the head in a rage, he said, 'Cursed be you,' and then he disappeared. I then went into my room to rest, and there I found him. He began again to strike me with a knotted rope and wanted me to listen to him while he suggested wickedness. I said no, and he struck me even harder, knocking my head violently against the ground. At a certain point, it came to my mind to invoke Jesus, Father, eternal Father, through the most precious blood of Jesus, free me. I then don't quite know what happened next. That contemptible beast dragged me from my bed and threw me, hitting my head against the floor with such force that it pains me still. I became senseless and remained lying there until I came to myself a long time afterwards. Jesus be thanked." That was just one entry, and it was very intense. From the look of her diary, it wasn't her first encounter, and it certainly wasn't her last. And finally, number 1 now, we have Pope Sylvester II. If you had to pick one person who isn't in league with the devil, you may pick the Pope. But back in the 10th century, people thought the first French Pope was a master of the dark arts and had sold his soul to the devil. He was undoubtedly a genius. He was known for his work in mechanics, mathematics, astronomy, clocks, organs, introducing Arabic numerals to Western Europe, as well as natural science, music, philosophy, and theology. That was a lot for one person, especially back then. After he died, rumours began to circulate that Sylvester had made a deal with the devil, that the devil had given to him his intelligence and wisdom in return for his soul. This was a terrifying prospect for Catholics at the time, the thought that their own leader, God's representative on earth, had been meeting and dealing with the devil in secret. In recent years, experts agree that he likely got his skills and knowledge from regular meetings with scholars from all over the known world, and not from some dark dealings. What do you think?
Number 10. The Scanner. This story comes from a user when she was in freshman year of college. She had never been with a boy and had never even kissed one, and she decided she was tired of being so sheltered, so she started going on Tinder. She met a boy for dinner and a movie after they had been chatting for a while, and everything seemed pretty normal. He was then supposed to drive her home, and it was late at night when she realized she had no idea where they were. The car was just on a gravelly road surrounded by farmland. The man said that he was just taking the back roads. Not ominous at all. He says that they were not far away and asked if he could turn on his police scanner. Her just thinking, okay, maybe this guy is a little weird. He then pulled over the car to the side of the road and turned off the headlight. Rightfully, she panicked and pretended to receive a phone call for her mom, being sure to say on the call that she was on a date and would be home soon. And he then took her home. To this day, she is glad she got out of the situation, as she fears what might have happened on that road. Number 9. The Dog. This one comes from a user who started talking to a guy on Tinder who happened to live just down the street from her. The guy would apparently constantly talk about his dog and how he wanted her to come over to his place so she could meet the dog. Eventually, she did agree to come over, and he told her to park her car diagonally next to a large boat that he had in the driveway, leaving only a few inches of room on either side. They eventually get in after the man answered the door in his boxers, and she saw that there was almost no furniture inside the home. He then started asking her strange questions like if anyone was expecting to see her that night, what's her blood type, and who does she live with. She then realizes that this whole time she hasn't seen a dog, or any evidence that one even lives there. When she asked about it, he simply smiled and continued on with his questions. She eventually managed to leave after he begged her to stay, and then later asked her to join him on a ride into the mountains. Thinking back, she believes that he made her park her car so tightly so she wouldn't be able to quickly escape. Number 8. The Friend. This story comes from a self-called introvert who decided it was time for herself to open up and step into the dating world. She matched with a guy and they hit it off pretty well, talking pretty often. She enjoyed talking, but realized that every time they spoke, she got a lot of anxiety and had kind of a bad gut feeling about it. But she brushed it off as maybe just her introverted tendencies. Her friends encouraged her, and she continued to speak with him after a brief period of ignoring his messages. She agreed to go out to dinner with him, but when she showed pictures to her friends, they pointed out that he looked pretty similar to a shitty ex of hers, and so she panicked and called off the date, unable to continue with it. She then started receiving tons of calls from him, begging her to speak to him again, and when she finally picked up, the person calling revealed that they weren't even her Tinder match, but instead his friend. He said that the man had said he could have her, and that he knew what school she went to, and he would just hang around campus and wait. She blocked him, and fortunately, she never heard from them again. Number 7. The Train. One of the most important parts of going anywhere is making sure you have a way to get home, and the guy in this story was presumptuous about where he was going to be spending the night. This girl invited her Tinder date to a concert where he proceeded to get incredibly drunk and unruly. She got tired of it and decided that she was gonna ditch and go to a bar with some of her friends. So she asked him when his last train home was, and he responded by saying it was already gone. She was shocked and asked him how he was planning to get home, and he responded with, "I'm coming home with you." Pretty assuming, threatening, and creepy. He followed them to the bar, but he was soon kicked out for being so drunk that he couldn't even stand up. The next morning, she woke up to a string of pathetic phone calls from him, and finding out that he had ended up in the emergency room after being so drunk he fell through a window. Number 6. The Bag. Alright, this one is probably the most intense and unsettling on this list. The girl had finally made it to the third date with her Tinder match, and feeling pretty comfortable, agreed to hang out with him in his home. He poured her a glass of wine, and for the most part things seemed to be going well, until she started feeling the effects of something else having been mixed in her wine. Fortunately, she recognized the feeling and made it to the bathroom, where she notified the police. She passed out but was woken up by the police, who put a bag over her head to lead her out of the home. A few days later, she was requested to come down to the police station and give her statement of what she was able to remember about that night, and she remembered the police having put a bag over her head. Curious about why they would have done that. They responded that it was so she couldn't see what the man had set up for her throughout the house. Number 5. The Theorist. Now, to lighten the situation, let's look at one post that is a little less terrifying. This one comes from a guy who was staying in a hotel in a different city, deciding to invite a girl over from Tinder to make the night a little more interesting. When she got there, they shared small talk and ended up talking about astrology. Being nice, he encouraged her to continue, and continue she did. Eventually, she started talking about how she fully believes in various different conspiracy theories like the Illuminati, fluorinated water, Washington being arranged into a pentagram, and other various things. He said that unfortunately this made him lose any interest in her, and eventually it got so late that she just decided to leave. Not scary, but more just amusing and bizarre, and honestly thinking back on it, that may have been me. Number 4. The Stalker. This one comes from a girl who started messaging with a guy on Tinder that wasn't her usual type, but still attractive enough. She notes how she made the dumb mistake of mentioning where she worked in their conversation. The same night she mentioned that, she was at work and saw a guy walk past who looked eerily like her Tinder match. A couple days later, she was at work again and was speaking to the man over the phone when she mentioned she would have to talk to him later because her phone battery was almost dead and she didn't have a charger. Just 10 minutes later, the same man she had seen the other day, her Tinder match, walked in with a phone charger for her to use, even though he had said he lived on the very other side of the city. She decided to cut ties there and saw that earlier in the day he had posted a selfie on Instagram with the caption, "I am now a taken man." She said that for weeks afterwards, she would still see him walking outside of her work. Number 3. The Abductee. Now let's look at another story that definitely could have maybe been me if I were a man. This girl met a man on Tinder that she had a great time talking online with, and they seemed to get along really well. So they met up, but she then realized that she just wasn't really fully attracted to him, but they decided to keep talking. As time went on, he proceeded to talk about how he had been abducted by aliens throughout his life, and even as far back as into his childhood. He had apparently been taken by the aliens multiple times because they had placed a tracking device in his arm, even showing her a scar that he had where he believed it had been placed. She decided that was finally where she had to call it off, and he admitted he felt stupid for bringing it up on the first date. I don't know, is alien abduction something you would want to get out there quickly, or is that like a third date, fourth date kind of thing? Number 2. The Cats. This one comes from a guy who decided to meet with his Tinder date for the first time at a barbecue she was having with some of her coworkers. They got along pretty well, and by the end of the night she invited him to come over to her place, and he agreed. On the way to her house, she mentions that she takes in stray cats. He says that he's allergic, but it shouldn't be an issue as long as he doesn't touch them, thinking that she has like maybe 3 or 4. She responds by saying that she has 15. When they opened the door, he saw a dozen set of eyes staring back at him from the darkness. The house was apparently in a complete state of disarray due to the cats, and the girl apparently not putting very much effort into cleaning. He didn't back out immediately, but after watching about half of a movie, he decided he needed to get out of there. When he woke up a few hours later, he discovered his eyes had been swollen almost completely shut because of the cats. Number 1. The Mom. This one is incredibly short and not overly unsettling, but is arguably the best one on this list and one of the biggest red flags ever. This girl agreed to meet her Tinder date for dinner, and when she got there, he was already there, with his mother. He said that she had to be there because he and his mom were a package deal. Would you move forward with that date, or would you just walk out right there?